Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Good evening. This is the April 26, 2013 installment of the Black Science Fiction Society radio show, The Genesis Show. And we are here this evening with a very interesting, important interview, and that is the interview this evening of the head of the Black Science Fiction Society, and that is Jarvis Sheffield. Jarvis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, everybody who's on here now, I think it's the vast majority of us, because I know we have some guests, the vast majority of people here already know who you are, but everyone doesn't know exactly what it is that you do, how much you have done, and what your current and future projects are. So this will be a wonderful time for you to tell us a little bit about where you come from, your background, and just, where it is that you see your personal projects going in the future and where you see Black science fiction going in the future. So I guess the first question to ask, of course, is, where do you hail from?
I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is also the same home of Usher and Samuel Jackson and also Bessie Smith.
Wow, I didn't know that. And are you from a large family, a small family?
Oh, I'm from a large family. My parents had 6 of us, and I'm number 6. And it's kind of interesting. My parents had 5 kids before me, and they're all like back to back, and I'm 10 years behind each of them. The youngest
wow.
of them.
You're the baby.
Yeah, literally.
Baby. Oh, wow. So did you find that your parents, after having that big break of 10 years, did they dote on you a lot?
No, they were, both of my parents were from Alabama, and they're raised in the country, and they're kind of old. They were kind of old school, and even more so when I was born. I was spanked, whooped, or whatever you call it. They were stern disciplinarians. Yeah. But the only difference between me and the ones before me, all of them, they were born in one big group. So my parents had to kind of spread the money between them. And by the time I came along, they had their act together and had everything refined so they could execute all that discipline on me.
Wow. Hey, you got all the focus, all that love and attention.
Yeah.
So when you were...
I had a great childhood, though.
So, but when you were a kid, were you attracted to science fiction?
When I was a little kid, I was just a normal little kid at first, but I had a different background. Most kids, when they were growing up, they played football and basketball. But my formative years, I grew up on the mountain in Chattanooga, Lookout Mountain. So we were hiking and caving, and that was just what we did. We ran around through the mountains, doing those type of things. And the big change came when I believe I'd seen a couple shows, My Favorite Martian and Star Trek with my brothers, but the big change came, I think I may have been in like the 2nd grade, but 2nd or 3rd grade, they took me to see Star Wars, and that kind of launched my whole sci-fi interest. It really pushed it to a whole nother level. I kind of watched it with my brothers before, but that movie was so impactful that I had a big interest with robots, and the action figures came out, so they that really changed my life as a child.
Wow. So when they ask you, if you're Star Wars or Star Trek, you're a Star Wars person.
Actually, I am both. It's like, to me, those two shows are like apples and oranges, and they're both like the best apple and the best orange. What I like about Star Trek, what I like about Star Trek is that it paints a picture of an optimistic future as opposed to the future is grim and everybody's radiated and everything's destroyed. I like the fact that Star Trek shows a positive picture of the future.
And after your introduction, I mean, as a young kid to the Star Trek, then your Star Wars epiphany, what did you do to further that love or, interest in the sci-fi genre?
I think that was a little before I took interest in reading. I think it kind of shifted me into a mode where I picked up every Star Trek figure I could get, Star Wars figure I could get my hands on. And me and my friends would have like little wars with these characters going back and forth on little strings and things in the front yard. It was really crazy, but and then we started reading a little after that, got a little older, still watching more science fiction and started buying comics. And that was I think that piqued my interest in reading more science fiction was the comic books.
So when was it when you were a kid, or maybe it was when you were an adult? And I know you said that you and your friends all went out and played with the action figures. When was it that you first noticed the dearth of black characters in those science fiction works, shows, movies that you were interested in?
Oh, I noticed those from day one. I mean, you picked out all your favorite. I think the black characters were your favorite characters. Well, they were for me. Lando Calrissian. When you got to stuff like what was the show? Battlestar Galactica. You had Boomer. You had Colonel Ty. You could just name all the black characters off, and I kind of gravitated toward them.
Okay. And
from day one.
So I guess one of the issues is then, was that basis that you have coming from your youth, how did all that become the foundation for you beginning the Black Science Fiction Society?
Well, having that love for science fiction and those characters, the next logical step is you want to see people that look like you in better roles, and it was few and far between in science fiction. I kind of noticed that when I was a kid, and it became more pronounced as I got older. We in college we would exchange comic books, compare notes on the different characters and things of that nature. And as I got older, and when my son was born, it kind of changed my perspective. Okay, I wanted him to have better imagery than I had growing up. We didn't want the characters. I wanted him to have A-list characters centering around black people, as opposed to the black characters always being a sidekick and things of that nature. But two things kind of pushed me forward with Black Science Fiction Society, actually moving it forward. I actually had the domain name in like 2004, but I kind of sat on it for a couple of years. But around 2008, when Barack Obama came on the scene, that kind of gave me an extra boost. I was like, well, who's this black guy is making it? He's made it to be a contender for president. If he can do that, then I'm gonna step my game up a little bit too. I can't at that point. I couldn't really make a comic book or write a book or anything that time, but I could put a site together and pull all the resources that I've ran across together in one place. And then I think, and I tell people this story, is that me and my son were watching something on television, and I can't remember exactly what, but I think he may have been 6, but he was like, why are the bad guys black people? And I was like, So I really I was kind of upset that he noticed it at that younger age, not at him, but because of the situation. So we had to have a little heart-to-heart talk. And so that kind of pushed me on over the edge right there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make moves on this stuff that I've been talking about, but I'm going to make it happen now.
Right. Now, when you first started out, starting the website, 2008, how in the world did you expect that you were going to get people to join? What was your first inclination toward, how am I going to get other people who are interested in science fiction, or the black people interested in science fiction, to gravitate toward this site?
Well, I talked to some of my friends, a handful of friends that like science fiction, so they was like, well, we'll join or whatever, and I was like, okay. That was one thing, and I had experience from running previous online communities, one that was called Black Nashville, which was just things going on here in the city and things of that nature. So that gave me a little background on how to run online community. But also, at the time, there was groups called e-groups, and Yahoo had Yahoo groups. And so I kind of just let people know what I was doing in those groups, and they kind of moved over to Black Science Fiction Society.
And how many people are currently in Black Science Fiction Society?
Right now there are over 3,200 members.
Wow. And
maybe 33, but definitely over 3,200.
When you started out, did you have any idea that would get to this many members, or do you have an even higher number projected?
I have even higher numbers projected, but one thing that I've learned is that slow and steady kind of wins the race. Because it wouldn't, if I had 1 million people on there before now or now, it would kind of be overwhelming to deal with that many personalities and manage it. But right now, I'm really enjoying the fact that we're having slow and steady growth, and that allows me to kind of meet almost every person that joins the site. I go on the site every day and check and see who's new, and I'll greet them. And that's how we've been able to grow the site, just, taking it one day at a time, greeting each person, and just sharing what we have as far as knowledge of Black science fiction. And I learned as much. I told someone I've learned more in 4 years about 5 years about Black science fiction than I knew my entire life, because the site's kind of plugged in internationally, and so you get that kind of cross connection from different cities, different countries that I would never know of outside of the site. The members share what they come across, and we just spread that information.
So at this juncture, I know that, you're growing the site. I know you've got some other plans with respect to how it is that you're going to grow Black science fiction. So I know one of the things that you do in your own right is that you are starting your own production studio. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, okay. Well, most people don't know, but I've been in media for the last 20 years. I started off even in high school doing video and computer work. And for the last 10 years, I've run my production company, Moonlighting, doing it on the side, the Digital Brothers, where we do web design, graphic design, animation, duplication, things of that nature. But I kind of wanted to pull all those skills together and really start creating original work. And so what I've done recently, over the last year, I've been pulling together 3D programs, 2D programs, special effects programs. And I still have digital HD digital cameras. I have a crane. I have a dolly, things of that nature to do video that I've been doing freelance for years. And what I most recently, this was about 6 months ago, I bought a production, well, not a production trailer, but a business trailer, and have been in the process of converting that into a production studio where we can pair off with members of the site to actually develop work from the ground up.
And right now, I know that you're probably in the process of doing a project. Do you want to enlighten us on what it is that you're working on and how far you are into it?
Well, I always have several things going on, but one of the core projects I'm working on right now is a project called Earth Squadron. It's feature-length 3D film. It's the short story of Earth Squadron is in the original Genesis anthology. What I wanted to do, I got with, I knew I didn't have quite the skills to make it into a great feature-length film. It was a great story, I think, short story. But what I did, I got with William, and he took what I had started and made it a feature-length film, and it's really good. It really is. And so over the last, I guess about last 6 months, we've been pulling together, a crew of people have been pulling together working on this project, creating the aliens, creating the Earth soldiers, creating the ships, things of that nature, and background props to make this film a great film. And I think right now we're in the storyboarding stage. It's kind of stalled out, but but it's slow and steady. Like I said, slow and steady wins the race. You do a little bit at a time, and it eventually gets done. And that's how I've been able to pull everything off. Just a little bit each day or each week, and it gets done.
Right. Now, with respect to the work that you're doing, how is it that you were able to gather, like, the individual people that had those individual talents and skills? I mean, were they all originally at BSFS, or did you just know people from, other work that you had done, or are you trying to gather people primarily from BSFS to work on these projects?
Well, my focus is always to use the talent on Black Science Fiction Society. At some point, I've ran across these guys in different places, whether it was on YouTube or Facebook or just a Yahoo group or something. They eventually came over to the site, and when the project started, I already knew that, okay, this guy does this and this guy does that, and he's really good. Let me talk to him and see if they would be interested in joining the project. And they were, thank goodness.
Right. Like, it's one of the things that I kind of skipped over because we just kind of got straight into the development end of this.
Oh, that's okay.
That you kind of gone a long way for somebody who did caving up in up in the Lookout Mountain. So who was it that you found to be your greatest source of inspiration, either personally, or professionally, or creatively?
It's oddly one of the people I've just been in the industry for years that I have a lot of respect for is Bill Cosby. He's consistently put out positive programming for Black people for decades. And one of the things I was thinking, I'm like, this guy's not going to live forever. And we all need to start playing our part to fill that gap for when he passes on. But I just use him as a example that he's put out, of course, Little Bill, and when we were little kids, he did picture pages and the Cosby Show and Different World and the other show, Cosby. He also had a cartoon that it lasted 2 seasons, but it was really good. It was called Fatherhood. And so I just kind of draw from his experience of producing quality, family positive programming, and so that's been one of my major people that I look up to, and I kind of emulate what he's been doing for years to produce positive programming for black people.
And how about personally? Is there somebody who has, inspired you personally, to get up, every day and get it done, or when, you were growing up and, it looked like maybe, I should become, a fireman that told you, no, go ahead and plumb those creative depths?
Well, I have to say, personally, it's probably been my parents. My mom completed high school, and that's as far as she got. But she was a really intelligent lady. And then my father, he kind of supported me in everything that I wanted to do. A lot of parents kind of steer their kids toward this or that, but growing up, whatever it was that I was interested in, he supported me. When I wanted to do band, he supported me in band. When I wanted to wrestle, he was there for that. When I wanted to play football, he was there for that. Even with these stuff like, VICA or student government, he always supported me in what I wanted to do. He never went to high school, and so for every little accomplishment that I made, I guess he was right there to experience that too. And
in that sense, and I know, those of us who are members of BSFS, and you watch every now and then in the chat room, you see the very involved father, and you take that from the relationship you have with your own father.
Hello?
Yes. I'm sorry. I didn't know if you heard me. I was just going to ask, that you're very involved, your father's very involved, and those of us who, see you on BSFS realize that you're also a very involved father, and that you took from that relationship with your father.
Oh, right. You're completely correct. I had a fantastic relationship with my dad, and so I try to do the same with my son. Like I said, I don't want to force him to try to be a clone of me, although he's taken up and he has some of the technical skill there too, as far as like he can work a course of video camera and set the tripod, everything up. He's made 2 video games before using some software that I got from overseas. He has the technical aspect, but his interest right now primarily is in sports. And so he plays basketball and football and runs track. And so I support him in those things.
Yeah, we see how that is running and his basketball, his football. So we're following along with you. I know you're a proud papa. You're always posting, so we always see what it is that you're doing. And
that's my upgrade.
Yeah, and I know also that you and your significant other, are very involved with your Greek organization. And do you take, have you found them to be very supportive with regard to the black, science fiction or the literary end of what it is that you do, your creative endeavors? Do you find, them to be as interested and vocal?
Well, I give more moral support as far as like encouragement and things of that nature. They've purchased the anthology. They've also purchased the magazine, and like they love what I'm doing, so they continue to give me support in it. My wife's a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and her line and her chapter, they participate in some of the things that I'm doing and provide support for that, whether it's like a donation or purchasing a book. And the same thing with my frat brothers of Omega Psi fraternity, the Mighty Rho Psi chapter. But they've definitely been really supportive. Not so much as coming on the site, because each of us has our own thing that we're doing, whether that's our careers or side businesses or doing things for the community.
Right. So right now, with respect to your son, and you said earlier that he's, gotten into the computer stuff. He's, done some gaming. How does he feel about science fiction? Is he a fan, or is he just kind of on the fringe? How is he?
He's a fan. Not anywhere that hard as I am, but but he's a fan. He has been a connoisseur of the black comic books. That's one of, and I'm really glad about that, because before, like I said, he really wasn't interested in anything but sports. So I took him to one of the first years I brought a bunch of black comic books back, and so he thought that was just the greatest thing. So I didn't have to fight him to read. And then I think last year I went to UPNEXT, and he got a chance to see and meet the actual people that created these black comic books, or the black video games he picked up, or T-shirts and things of that nature. He even ran the booth for a little while when I stepped out and kind of took pictures and things of that nature. So he had a great time, and so that's furthered his interest in science fiction. So he's reading without being asked to read and asking a bunch of questions, and most of the time he's sitting here listening to the show and asking questions in the background.
Now, that question is kind of like a segue I had, involving your child. It's like, where do you see black science fiction going in the future?
Oh, I see us taking as a group, taking a larger role in the creation of science fiction, and a broader role in actually being in the films, because I think we have to take it upon ourselves to do more. Other people, the mainstream doesn't seem to have a big interest in having positive black or minority roles. So we have to do these things ourselves. And I see a lot of people getting in the game. They're making independent films. They're making comic books. They're making anthologies. They're making novels. They're making action figures and animations and things of that nature. And it's just going to grow over time. It's not going to happen overnight. Hollywood has taken 100 years to be where it is. It just didn't spring up within itself overnight. And so I can see black science fiction becoming as big, if not bigger, than anime or manga and things of that nature in the near future. And one example, shining example, is not perfect, but it's a really good example, in my view. It's Nollywood. They're, which is like the Nigerian version of Hollywood. They're out here they're making their own films and getting it out there and making money from these films. And so I feel that black science fiction is going to take a great role in the future. It's just going to take time.
Now, with respect to what you think we're doing with BSFS, where do you see our trajectory? Is BSFS moving toward more of a social group of writers, creators, or do you see us being a more inclusive group with writers, creators, readers, producers, directors? How do you see BSFS standing, in the middle of that growth?
If I have anything to do with it, of course, it's going to be right in the center. But I think it's going to be all of that, from being a consumer to being producers. That's something that we want to do in the near future, which we've actually started doing a little of, is pairing off with others to produce things. Like right now, paired off with Stephen Hippolyte to do a children's book. And slowly and steady, we'll have that done by the end of the year. But I really want Black Science Fiction Society to be a hub for us to meet and create. I think that's one of my number one goals with it.
Now, with respect to, like you're saying, children's books, Do you see that as something that we as writers or black writers or writers who are interested in the diaspora, do you think that that is something that we should be focusing on at this moment?
Oh, most definitely, because once you introduce young people to these positive images, I think it's kind of transformative. And like I said, I use my son as an example. I had to kind of almost threaten him to get him to read, and now I don't have that problem because he has material that he can relate to. And so that's going to be a lifelong reader now and consumer of black science fiction. And similarly with other young adult material, I see the same thing happening. We create it, and it's good. Those children are going to want more of that, and they're going to be they'll probably turn around and do the same thing for their kids once they become adults.
All right. In a moment, I have to make our station identification that this is the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, the April 23rd, 2013 edition. This is, of course, we always say, a service provided to you by the Black Science Fiction Society. We are this evening having a very special conversation with the head of the Black Science Fiction Society, Jarvis Sheffield. We have been talking about what it is that kind of motivates his movement to creating the Black Science Fiction Society and what his goals are in the future with regard to the Black Science Fiction Society and Black science fiction as a whole. And I guess one of the issues that, we kind of, again, glossed over because we kind of moved on quickly is I never got to ask you with respect to the reading, because one of the things you said is that you and your friends, you started reading science fiction after you had that epiphany with Star Wars. So when you started reading science fiction, who was it that you read, and how did they affect your love for science fiction?
I think with some of the early reading, it was of course comic books before moving into novels when I got older. But the first thing was comic books. It was, of course, the Star Wars comic books and X-Men and Spider-Man and Avengers, all of those type of characters and all those type of comics. But I really didn't start reading novels or anything of that type nature until I got until I got in high school. But up until that point, everything was comic books.
And in high school, what was it that, you were interested in then?
I started diversifying. Reading. One of my professors introduced me to stuff like Women of Bruce the Place, I Know Where the Caged Bird Sings, and a lot of other writers. There's one book that they were, what is it? It was a book of short stories with different black writers. It was basically an anthology of stories that had been around for over 100 years, but there was some really good stuff in there. And let's see, and then I had another transformative moment. Like I said, when we were in college at Tennessee State, me and my friends, we would go to the comic book store and get comics. And this company started making black comics, and it was called Milestone. So I think at one point I've had virtually every issue of Milestone comics that came out, whether it was Static or Shadow Cabinet or what's the other one? Icon, and it was really, really great to have comics that look like you.
And after your interest in comics, and I know right now one of the work that you have now, the Earth Squadron, is an animated project. But when you were moved from you're in the comics realm, did you at any time think in terms of, becoming involved in a comic book project?
Not really. As far as creating comics, it didn't really cross my mind to start creating comics or anything like that until Black Science Fiction Society. I've been perfectly content at buying the the comics that other people were making for like Milestone or other independents.
Okay. So again, you said that you have been in the industry, for quite a while. What was it that drew you to it? Because many of us, are creative and we write, and that's our thing that we do, other than our day job. But it appears to me that you have taken that creative part of who you are and made that not just part of your sideline, but also part of your quote-unquote day job. So, what was it that drew you to it?
I've always been interested in like making things, and my brothers were always doing some experiments with motors and electrical wiring, things of that nature, and I would take toys apart and build new things from them, or just build stuff from scraps. And that kind of came from that influence from Star Wars that I was talking about. And so anything where I'm able to create and kind of infuse with technology, I've always been interested in. And so that's led me to do a little creation as far as graphic design and things of that nature. I think that got started when I started my own company, and I didn't have the money to go out here and hire a graphic designer, so I had to learn it myself. I didn't have the money to hire animators, so a lot of the stuff has come from necessity. If I need to learn, if I need something, sometimes I just take it upon myself to learn how to do it.
And so that's been your kind of that kind of mindset that in my mind I have an idea of a project, a thing that I want done. So then I just decide how it is that I'm going to get to it. Be that getting someone else to do it, or I'm going to have to learn how to do it myself.
Exactly. And I think after going to college and stuff, sometimes when you go to class, the teacher would basically just read out the book. And I was like, well, I can read to myself, And so anything that I want to learn, I pretty much can force myself to sit down, read some books, do some tutorials, ask some people in that field, and kind of teach myself.
Wow. So now that you're in this process, and like I said, we know that this Project Earth Squad is an animation project. How much of that are you doing hands-on yourself?
Probably about, maybe 50%. What I'm doing so far, I've gathered some people that are better than me at animation and kind of picked their brains, read several books, bought some tutorial stuff. But from some of the things that I feel like I could benefit from someone else's experience, I've consulted people that are just obviously better than me to join the project. We have Wayne Robinson that was on the show before. He's been creating some of the ships for the show. Also, Alonzo, he's put in many hours creating some of the soldiers, the main characters, and the aliens. And the idea is to have those guys create the original characters, the most prominent characters, and import those into a program which I use called iClone, and animate them from that point.
So how long are you all projecting this project to take to come to, maybe not to completion, but until the point where you all are ready to put out your trailers and things to draw the rest of us in?
Well, you'll probably see some trailers and things of that nature by the end of the summer, but it's probably going to take at least a year from start to finish with the project, because we want to take our time and we just want to do a okay project and throw it out there. We want to make sure that we're putting the best possible project together, from having some great voiceover talent to voice the characters, to having excellent background music and effects and things of that nature.
Sorry, I'm good. Click that a little bit.
I think my face is pushing the phone.
Yeah. I was going to ask, when you are looking at this project as a whole, and I know you're saying it's about a year out, have you all considered doing an Indiegogo, Kickstarter, or something to get, an infusion of cash to push it along further? Is that something that you all had considered, or is it something that you would rather not do and have a more closed approach, closed circle on the project?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. You'll probably be seeing some Indiegogo information probably within the next month or so, because that's definitely an avenue we want to take as far as raising additional funds, so that the project can be a great project. We want to raise as much funds that we can so that we can get that additional quality level for the film.
And a few months ago when you were speaking, you were talking about how you and your brothers all had this ability to taking apart and putting stuff together again, and you and with regard to your brothers, since everyone is so much older than you, how much involvement or support have they been in what it is that you do?
They're always a source of moral support. That's one thing I've always that I admire about them, that they support. Much like my dad, we kind of support each other in what we're doing. We don't really have a bunch of sibling rivalry. When one of us is doing something, we kind of rally around that person and support them, whether that's encouraging words or donating to something I'm doing, or selling books, things of that nature. They've done that in the past. So they're a great source of support, both morally and financially.
Are any of them in the industry the same way that you are, or any related industry?
No, we're doing completely different things. One of my brothers is in manufacturing, and the other one actually works for Amazon.
Well, that's kind of related, isn't it, Amazon?
He's at one of the distribution factories here in Tennessee.
Wow, okay. Now, I know we're getting down into like the last 15 minutes of the show, and one of the things, of course, is we're going to be going into the Q&A section, the forum, after this.
Oh, no.
Yes. But is there anything, that you would tell people who are wanting to get off into some of the things that you're doing, like one, like starting a community? What type of advice would you give someone who wants to start their own community?
One thing that's really kind of omnipresent is to make sure to grow a thick skin, because you're going to run across different personalities, and they're not going to always be nice. Also to be patient, because growing an online community it's really not as easy as it looks, and it's going to take time. So you're going to have to learn some some patience. And then also to do your research, there are books out there on running online communities, and one of them in particular, let's see, what's the title here, that I utilize is called simply Building Successful Internet Communities. I know it's a few years old, maybe 10 years old, but it has the basics for running a community that hold true over time. Like, let's see, there are several different things to keep in mind. You want to get them there, get people there, keep them there, sell them something, diversify, and grow with new technology. So those are like 5 things to take home when doing a community. And
I guess, what would you tell someone who is trying to grow a particular area, like, Black science fiction, which is, it's kind of a niche area? What would you tell someone, about that, how to go about growing that type of niche or any other type of niche area?
Well, I would say network with people online that you feel that would be interested, and then also offline, go to places that cater to that particular niche, and hand out flyers, hand out business cards, things of that nature, because you have to get out here and promote yourself both online and in the real world, because people can't patronize you or come to your site if they don't know you exist.
Absolutely. And what in the way of publicity are you looking to do for BSFS? And as members, what is it that we should be doing with regard to publicity for BSFS?
Oh, some things that I do or like email blasts from other sites, networking on other sites and other groups that are associated with your topic. Also, go to Yahoo groups, go to Facebook. Also use some of the other free things like Twitter, of course. One I've stumbled upon, recently stumbled upon. There are other sites called like Dig and Pinterest. You can meet other people and network with other people on those sites and slowly build your numbers that way. And then also what I would like, any assistance in marketing Black Science Fiction Society would be great. Like, sharing the site with people, hit that invite button and share it. Or if you have content on the site that you posted, hit the share button and share that with other people. But also spend a little money and do some research and just buy books that are related to your to doing online communities and things of that nature. One of them is Webmastering for Dummies. It sounds like, that's nothing in there that I want to see, but it's great. It's great for learning the basics of running a site. Also, guerrilla marketing. There's a book called Guerrilla Marketing Online. Guerrilla Marketing Online Weapons, and you can glean some information from that on how to run your site and how to grow your numbers.
So with respect to, all this information, just like you do every week when somebody else is talking, you're reposting this, right?
I can't. I most certainly will.
Long list of information. So yes, you can post that so that those of us who are, trying to get, ourselves focused, or just those who have an interest, will be able to see what it is that you've been doing and how it is that you got to the point where you are with the Black Science Fiction Society. I know that, we kind of, again, we jumped, kind of forward and back. But it's question that I wanted to ask, and I know I asked about, reading stuff, but what people in the profession, other than, Bill Cosby as an inspiration, but other people in the profession that, do what it is that you do that you would like to emulate?
That's an interesting question. That's what everybody says when they don't have an answer, right? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, but it is a question. Maybe that's a good question. Yeah, but this. And sometimes I know that. And then sometimes there is no one. That you are the first person that I'm serious. Sometimes you are the first person who has done the things that you are trying to do.
Well, one person that I kind of look up to and was kind of patterned after was Edward Uzel. He had and he still has the site Datharet and also Netters. When I was in college, he was the guy that I looked up to for black science fiction. He started doing online comics and web animations 10 years before anybody I knew. And so he definitely someone that I've been emulating. And also, I think I forget the guy's name, but this may have been 10 years ago. He had a site called Urban Entertainment where he had independent comics and cartoons and short stories on the site. It's also the guy that produced, or at least he wrote Undercover Brother. Most people don't know that Undercover Brother was an online animated series before it was a movie. And so those are two people that I kind of want to emulate. I want to, what Urban Entertainment did, they had a lot of original black programming. And so that's something that I'm trying to emulate now.
Now, just now you spoke about some of these online, web comics or, people who have had a presence on the internet who are, black writers, illustrators. Have you noticed that those artists, those writers have been able to maintain their notoriety? Or have you seen a waning in it, or that they don't continue? Because I think that's one of the problems that I've seen with some people, that they start out and they're phenomenal, and then we just don't see them again.
Let's see. Well, I think that's definitely an issue that we need to deal with. But as far as Edward, he's been able to, like I said, over the years, maintain both of those sites and go ahead and produce physical comics, something that he's been doing consistently. And I think he has another project coming out, so another comic. At least I've seen the promo for it, and I'm looking forward to that. And he's also done a novel recently that I need to get on there and purchase. But he's been able to continue with his project. As far as Urban Entertainment, I think the guy that was primarily responsible for that, he took a webcomic and made it into a feature-length film. And he's done several other films. I can't name any of them right now, but he's moved on to doing multi-million-dollar films from running an online website.
So is that what you look to, or do you look at the web presence as just a jumping off point to, doing live action or animated film or other type of entertainment packaged entertainment materials, or do you see internet as being something in and of itself that has value? Because it just seems, just let me answer the question.
Well, I think that it's going to be an ongoing thing, not something we passed the stage, we're just going to leave it alone. I think the internet has been an equalizer as far as getting people's businesses out there. By utilizing the internet and the website, that's how I've been able to pull all the elements together to create the things like the anthology or the magazine or the website. I wouldn't have met any of these people, I say 99.9% of these people outside of the website. And so we want to use the website to continue to network and build and create things, but also to continue to promote what we're doing and what other people are doing.
Okay. All right, now we are into the last.
Everything.
Yeah, we're into the last 5 minutes of the interview. I know that sounds impossible, but we are. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you think is an important thing that you want to put out there for all the writers and the artists and the entertainers who are listening to you this evening?
Well, maybe a few things. One, to continue to support us and support the site, because we're going to do our best to support you and put your information out there about what you're doing. And two, to always try to give back where you can, where you're, whether that's mentoring or donating to a cause. One thing that I hadn't mentioned is that me and some friends started an organization called Determined Brothers, where a couple of days a week we spend an hour or so with disadvantaged youth, teaching them anything from how to tie a tie to helping them with testing skills and things of that nature. And that's been a blessing for me since 2009. And that's also how we've paired off to start the studio. Well, one of the other guys with the organization, the Determined Brothers organization, when we formed the 501c3 within 5 months, that normally takes like a year. That was one blessing that we got for our efforts in the community. Also, there was a guy that just came, he was at a job site doing some computer work and got in a conversation, and he donated $3,000 to the organization. A few months later, still doing what we're doing, there was we were running off of some used Dell computers at one of the at the facility that we were at first. A doctor from Vanderbilt, found out what we were doing and donated 7 brand new Dells to the organization. And so we kind of tied that in with what we're doing as far as like creating. I talked to one of the other members, and we have complete access to those computers for dual use, for creating stuff for Black Science Fiction Society, and then also for training the children on. And then one of the next things which we planned out is to teach the children how to use these programs to create comic books and create their own animations and things of that nature. So you never know where giving back is going to actually be a benefit for you in the future. So don't just think it's all about me. Also ask other people how you can give back. And like I said, it doesn't always have to be money. Your time is a great thing, particularly with young people.
So with us, who are the members of BSFS, is hitting that share button and listing our events and things of that ilk. Is anything else that you want to say to us right now that you need us to do in order to get the word out?
That's the number one thing. Hit those share buttons, hit the invite button, talk about some of the things that you've experienced on the site that you like with other people. And if there's anyone that wants to do interviews or anything like that, I'm always open for that as well.
Well, fantastic. Right, so it seems that we are now at the end of the first hour of the show. It has been a thrill to interview you. It has been really a wonderful experience to let the membership know, what it is that you have in mind, what your plans are for BSFS and for Black science fiction moving into the future. And we thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
You're listening to Genesis Science Fiction Radio, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is the April 26th, 2013 episode, and we're talking to the originator and the creative mind behind BlackScienceFictionSociety.com. And I want to thank Penelope for hosting the first half of this show. I understand you're at a truck stop in Oklahoma. You pulled over to do the show?
I think she logged off.
I guess she did. Anyway, for those of you who know how the show goes, what we want to do is we're going to unmute everybody who has called in, and also those people who have dialed into chat and are online. I'm going to open the floor for questions for Jarvis that you might want to ask him. But in just a second, let me go over a couple of things. Coming up, you have a couple of publications that are coming out based on from the site. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you describe what's coming, and probably maybe let people know where they can get these publications.
Okay. First off, we'll be coming out with Genesis Chapter 2, which is the second in our series, ongoing series, which you'll continue to see throughout the years. It's an anthology with 25 writers from the site that are selected from various genres. And that should be out, I think. It will be out, what's this month? April? It will be out May.
Just say soon. It'll be out soon. That's what I tell people.
It will be out soon. The last edit has left my hands. I just kept messing with it. And I finally had to say enough is enough. And now the cover and the manuscript portion are out of my hands. So it'll be out very soon.
Okay.
Also next month, near the end of next month, Genesis Science Fiction Magazine, that will be out as well. It encompasses stories, interviews of people that have created things out in the community. Also artwork, comics, things of that nature, to showcase the work that members have done. And I think sometimes if it's in a magazine, it kind of gives it a little more legitimacy, and
Sure.
So all those people that are in the magazine kind of get immortalized because they'll be in there kind of forever. And also, I'm working with Steve Hippolyte, like I mentioned before, on a children's book around his invention that he's working on. His patent pending, called Keynotes. It's sort of like, I don't know if you remember shirt tails or Care Bears, but instead of having shirts or a little care symbol on their chest, they have these little power lockets that give them powers.
So it's kind of a whole creative universe. And where is this going to be? Is this going to be web-based or broadcast or cable?
At this very first stage with Keynotes, it's going to be a children's book that you can purchase from our site. And also, we're looking into, and we've pretty much gotten a green light to make it into a animated series. So we're doing the background work Yeah, it's off the chain, and we're doing the background work to make that a reality as well.
Oh man, I mean, there's always something going on, and that's just with you. When you add in the rest of the membership, the 3,200 other members, things are popping at BSFS all the time.
Oh man, people are creating great things out here.
Yeah. All right, so enough about me. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Jarvis? It always happens. Always, man. I can count on it every single time I do this. I get sucked in every single time. All right, so y'all pulled it on me again, but go ahead and ask Jarvis what you'd like to ask him. Ooh, 2 times one night. Okay.
Okay. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Question. This is Alonzo Von 3. This is Alonzo Von 3, AVT Pro.
I knew that. I was just messing with you.
How would you know? We haven't talked on the phone. We're email, buddy. I recognize your voice. Yeah, that's why I always do the ID, because I have to recognize. I think I asked him three times who was Jarvis, what was your voice. But I just wanted to, again, just give kudos, because when I came across Black Science Fiction Fantasy, I came across it looking for just a place to see Black art, and Black art as it relates to science fiction. And I was actually surprised to see that there was such an established place that represent Black people and Black people in science fiction, which is, a paramount that we as a people project and create our own culture and our own futurism and our own image for the future. There's definitely something we can't leave in other people's hands, and that we are sole responsibility of. And it hasn't happened as much as I'd like, but when I saw the site, it was very, very helpful. And so one other thing I want to thank him for personally is every time I post, he features it. So that is
some good stuff.
It's really encouraging, because oddly enough, even though it might be good stuff, or even though I have clients or people working for me or have done this business for many years, I don't hear much kudos. A lot of people, especially, I'm being honest, he talked about getting butt whoopings from his parents, so we can be honest here. So I used to get it too. My parents are from Alabama and Arkansas, so I related to that. That was very weird. Mm-hmm. But just that kind of feedback and acknowledgement among each of our own peers. And basically, I'm saying that because people that understand that genre, and as Black people and being a Black artist, it's not often that, the thing I used to get is, oh, you're going to be broke, you're going to be poor, and, that's not true. So, and especially if you develop your work or get into the industry, and, now art is everything, but at the time for Black people, it was just a rarity. So that's how much of a rarity it's like art is Black art and then Black science fiction. So it's a double whammy on that, and to hold his own. But the main thing I want to say is that, do you consider, the question that I want to pose is that, do you consider Black science fiction as your particular website, or as you representing a full whole genre of a market and industry for Black people as a whole? Which is very different. And that's how I saw it. I saw Black science fiction. I'm like, oh, finally, here it is. Here I've arrived, Black science fiction as the genre of the work. And specifically, it's not even like hip-hop, because you got white people doing hip-hop, whereas here, this specifically says Black people doing this. So it really, and even the Black people, like, let's say, Will Smith or other, it's or let's say Halle Berry in X-Men. It's not specifically black, just because they're black. So do you consider yourself, a representative of that genre as a whole, like a founder of that genre of black science fiction, or is that just a type?
Well, never just a site. We're trying to, because it's not just me. It's me and my wife, and I also get input from my son to make sure that everything is appealing to them as well. But we want to represent black science fiction and to be a central hub for all things black science fiction. And as we were talking about before, so that we could cover all bases, we want to appeal to consumers, and we want to be a meeting place for producers as well. And I want to thank you for the kind comments about the site, because you're right. I noticed that, we have all of these different things, but we don't get, no one gets accolades for it. No one gets recognition for it. And I always want to give the people that actually are out here spending their last dollar making comics and putting their heart and soul into their products, whether that's a book or animation or a toy. I want those people to get some recognition, and I want them to be seen so that they will, so that others will see them, buy their work, and they continue to make more. I think that was one of the main things a few years ago that kind of contributed to creating the site, was that you had people creating things, but nobody knew about it. You may have a buzz in your city, but outside of your city, no one knew about you. Like, there's a member on the site now. He was he created a comic book like 10 years ago and made an animation right after that, but he didn't have a buzz outside of the city here in Nashville, and so he wasn't able to create enough income from that, so he stopped. And so my job is, in my mind, is to find the talent that makes these great works and put them out there for people to buy their work.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. And I have to say again, when I came to the site, I considered it the hub or the genre in itself, the classification of black science fiction, because and specifically and solely to address that, because I wasn't finding it anywhere else. Like I said, I've been at this for all my life. I'm almost 50. Well, I am 50, sorry. But I'm in denial. Right? But, yeah, and I know guys who've been doing it longer than I have who have literally quit, and more talented, and have quit because they didn't have even the simple things like the acknowledgement, the accolades, or being featured, or so. I know it seems like a small thing. And like I say, I do stuff for international and global corporations. I've done it from New York to UK to Brazil, whatever. But I don't get that,
I'm not sure if you knew this, but I have been following your YouTube group for years before you joined. I would ask you questions, and you answered them. I would come to.
I realized that, and I was going to mention something. I said, because, I'm into teaching and tutorials, and I sell tutorial DVDs. You also featured that, so that helped me with my business and other people who have followed me from my YouTube site, which is really informal. I always have a very informal teaching style, but I've taught at Pratt and Parsons in New York at the Pulp Engineering Building. I've done corporate training privately. I have a lot of I'm an authorized trainer with a lot of the software vendors and a beta tester. So it's it's just business, and I'm very business minded with it. And so, but to be that business minded, I also come off very informal. mean, you've been a really, you know, I just wanted to just joke about, you know, when I was doing the alien characters, it was like, you know, I knew you were around, but until I was actually doing those type of characters, then you say, hey, then you pull my coat, and then you say, hey, I need you for something. So I was like, you know, that's the way to do it. You know, when you're looking for artists, you know, you find him painting. When you're looking for a trumpeter, you find him trumpeting. When you're looking for a plumber, you find him doing plumbing. So it's just, you know, there's some good practical common sense to it. And so, again, I just got to say kudos. It's been just a great experience. And I've done some of my finest work for you, so I'm very proud, very honored to be a part of it.
And I'm very thankful. Very thankful indeed.
I've got a question for you, Jarvis, something that occurred to me. Let me ask you this, and you could share it with everybody else. What is the hardest part of keeping this community together, keeping it going, and helping it grow?
The hardest part. I think the hardest part is being able to deal with various personalities and to not offend people. I think that's been one of my biggest things. Sometimes I've misconstrued things that someone said, or someone may have misconstrued what I said, and making sure that we communicate in a manner that is respectful toward everyone. That's been the hardest thing, but it's been a great experience. It really has. I've met, on another note, I've met all types of personalities that have enhanced my life. I've stated to Penelope earlier, I've learned more over the last few years of running the site than I have my entire life regarding Black science fiction. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things as far as like keeping it going is just maintaining dedication toward it. That's not a problem for me, but because I'm kind of driven, because it's not about Jay. It's about Black science fiction growing and getting the recognition that it should have. Our children should have positive images. They should have superheroes that they can relate to, rather than being sidekicks or someone being killed in the movie. You just used as a plot device to support another character.
Sure.
The next generation deserves better than we had, and I'm trying to facilitate that.
That's pretty cool, man. I don't want to embarrass anybody. I'm not going to ask you any questions about, who are the some of the people that you laud on the site, because there are so many. But how many? Let's just ask some common sense question. About how many hours a day do you think you spend kind of keeping up with what's going on? Because for those who don't know, you do have a full-time job. You have a family. You've got a life, that is separate and distinct from your online work. And I know that some of the lines get blurred. But, I mean, how much time do you spend, how much time do you think you spend a day kind of keeping things going, keeping an eye on things, and making sure that the wheels don't come off the wagon?
Oh, man, I haven't just pinpointed, but probably maybe at least 8 to 10 hours. I get up. That's like the first thing I do in the morning. It's part of my morning routine. Check the site, new members, greet the new members, make sure there's nothing inappropriate on the site, things of that nature. I'm in here on my lunch break, seeing what's going on. I'll check everything before I leave in the afternoon, and depending upon what I'm doing, family-wise, I put in like another maybe 6 hours in the afternoon, 5 or 6 hours in the afternoon. And that's something that I want to convey to everyone. If it's something that you want to do in life, don't make excuses. Just get out here and do it. When you leave, if you're working 9 to 5, they're not telling you what to do. No one's controlling what you're doing once you leave that job. So you can, if you have dedication, you have at least another 6 to 8 hours in the day that you can work on whatever it is you claim you want to work on. So
yes,
definitely,
now that falls
if
right
you want
in.
to do it,
Go ahead.
do it. Go ahead.
that falls right in with this next question. You know, you have a full-time job, you have a full-time family, you do this as almost like a full-time job, and here you are, for those who don't know, you're getting ready to start your doctoral program in education. How are you, 2 questions. How are you going to fit all of that in?
Wow.
And then what do you think you're going to do with that doctoral once you have your degree? You know, something's going to have to give, because I'm sorry to tell you, unless you discover some principle in time that we don't know about, there are still only 24 hours in a day, man.
Well, I've actually been able to pull it off before, because shortly after I started the site, I went back to school and completed my bachelor's degree. And then also, maybe 6 months after that, I went back and did the master's program and completed that. But it's really a balance of time management and a lot of sleep loss, but mostly time management. And fortunately for me, with both programs, the master's program was every Saturday, so I wasn't in class like every day. I had a week to get whatever I needed to get done. So that's how I took care of that. And then also with the doctoral program, it's still going to be challenging, but it's one weekend a month. So I'll have like a month to get whatever I need to get done before the next class. But the central thing is dedication and time management.
That sounds
so making
great.
the time.
I don't know how
making the time to get everything done.
Well, I keep telling you, I don't know when you sleep, because it just appears. Well, I'm serious, man. You're on there all the time. You're keeping up with a lot of things. I mean, I've run sites like this. You have lots of maintenance you have to do. You have spammers logging in who just want to mess your site up. You have all these things that you have to do, and it is a fairly exacting job. If you make a mistake, you end up having to pay for it with more time. So, I mean, it is pretty remarkable, all of the things that you manage to do, and that you manage to do them as well as you do. So, I mean, you're definitely to be commended for that. Another question came up, how much collaboration, cooperation, or competition do you have with other like-genre sites? People who may be individuals who are doing science fiction, black science fiction, or other collective sites where there may be a membership. Are you running into those kinds of places in your own travels around the internet?
Well, I kind of have a friendly relationship with other sites, because I think each person has their own focus.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm friends with the guy that runs blackcomics.com. Met him at OnyxCon. We exchanged ideas, and it's just a friendly competition. But I'm not trying to. I'm gonna put him out of business. He does his thing, and I do mine. And then similarly, there's a site. It's kind of on hiatus right now. Black Superhero. I met Omar at OnyxCon, and even before then, I was a member of his site years ago, where you could go and find out information about black comics primarily, not books per se, but comics.
Sure.
And so he's a great guy. We exchanged exchanged information, and it's more camaraderie than competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I really only think my only competition is Facebook. It's a blessing and a curse, where I meet a lot of people on Facebook. I think we have over 3,000 people on our friends or in my friends on Facebook as well as the site. Some of those people have not made their way over to the site yet, but I'm always trying to fish and get them to come over.
Sure. Now, are you not to get in your money business or anything, but is the site generating enough revenue for you to always ensure that it'll be free for everybody to access, or do you see somewhere in the future where it may become a subscription model?
I don't think we'll ever become a subscription model because I want to make sure that barrier toward this information is always available to anybody at any time that needs it. You know, because from the person that's a successful author to somebody in their dorm room that wants to participate or learn more about science fiction. But the site, I can say as of today, it's been that way for a while, but it generates enough money to support itself. And then that's been through kind donations that people would just indiscriminately send $20 or $50 for the site, in addition to purchasing the anthology or the magazine. And both of those serve two purposes: to showcase great work made by members of the site and to also keep the site going.
Right.
So, and then we also have advertising, banner advertising and email blasts that we do from time to time that help support the site. So the site is self-sufficient.
That sounds great. All right, so I asked you about, how much time it takes and what's the worst part about, having to manage the site. What is the thing that really, really sets you off and really makes you feel good about the fact that not only did you put in the time and effort to do this, but that you do take up so much time in your daily routine in order to maintain the site? What's the best part about having BlackScienceFictionSociety.com?
The best, I think the best part is learning about new things that are being created out there. I told somebody a few days ago I get high on my own supply here because I'm always on the site. Like I said, I told someone it's the first thing I see in the morning and almost the last thing at night, every night. And I enjoy finding out about new comic books and new movies and new toys and books and all of those things that people are creating out here that I probably wouldn't have ever known about before.
Right. By
having all these different members connected around the world, I found out about great things like a comic book from France called Shango, or a great artist from Trinidad named Comaine. And so being connected and finding out about all these great people creating things is one of the best things about doing the site.
And now you anticipate you're still going to have enough time when you're doing your doctoral to kind of keep everything going the same way, or do you think you'll be? I mean, do you have other people who help you manage the site, or is this pretty much a labor of love just for yourself right now?
Well, actually, I have a niece and a nephew that I kind of badger sometimes to get them to give me a little assistance on here. They're not very vocal because they're not really into science fiction as I am, but they'll support me.
Sure.
When I ask for some assistance, you'll probably see Xavier's on there. That's my nephew. He goes to MTSU. What's her name on here?
Oh, see, that was just wrong. That was just wrong.
She's over here. She doesn't talk. Cameron, that's my niece. She lives in Chattanooga. And so they give me a little assistance when I need it. And also my wife supports me. She's always in the background double checking stuff that I put out. if it's a mistake, that's one of the days that I didn't get to run it past her.
So none of that falls on her, right?
Oh no, it's me not getting it to her soon enough, so I'll just push the button and there it goes.
Oops.
And then there are other members of the site other members of the site that have been gracious enough to provide support, such as yourself, Penelope, John Garrett. He's not really active on the site that much, but he actually lays out the magazine. You have Kay Sharice Wright. She deals with the anthology, or Valjean Jeffers. Well, I'm sorry, Valjean Jeffers. I don't want to get slapped.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to get slapped. Valjean Jeffers. She does a lot of the editing for the magazine as well, and there are a host of other people that come on here on a regular basis and post and comment and things of that nature. Everything that they do, that's appreciated as well, because I can't come on here every day and do everything that I'm doing and post new videos or post new forums and things of that nature. And so each person that participates is helping out. They don't know it, but they're helping out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's appreciated.
Well, I mean, you mentioned me, and for me it is a labor of love. I mean, I support this environment. I support this site. I support what it does because, you know, as much as people would like to think that, good entertainment is found everywhere, there's a whole lot of good entertainment out there that people won't look for because they're lazy or, you know, and let's be honest, stop and think about science fiction in the last 50 years. When we talk about movies, when we talk about television shows, it was apparent that in the entertainment world, they didn't plan for us to be here. Okay, in future science fiction and things like that. And the other part of it is the important part, like Dr. Martin Luther King said to Nichelle Nichols, you know, you have to stay on Star Trek. You're providing a role model that wouldn't exist under any other condition. And being able to have science fiction, being able to have fiction, speculative fiction, steampunk, all of these things with faces that look like people of color, black people, is vitally important in terms of culture and in terms of broadening the interests and the grasp of our kids, because kids do what they see their friends, their family. They do what they see done by people who are like them. And if there were no black science fiction, if there were no black speculative fiction, where would they get those kind of ideas? Where would they get the push to be creative? So, you know, this is very important. It's a lot more important than many people would give credit for, and you deserve a lot of credit for keeping it going, because this was part of your original vision, providing a place where people, you know, where black people could find black entertainment in a genre where for the longest time we didn't exist. So again, kudos, man.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Now, this is H. Wolfgang Porter, producer and blah blah blah, novelist and whatever.
You could just ask the question.
Yeah, you know, this is just for the people who didn't know who I was. So, you know, I have to make that exception on occasion that people don't know exactly who I am.
That is true. That is true.
But my question is, earlier you mentioned that you had to, you know, that part of your job is dealing with the website is to make sure that things are appropriate. Having run into you on that issue once, I want to, I'd like for you to elaborate on that, because you know, even though we got that worked out with no problem, there have been others who didn't. So could you elaborate on that, please?
I always want to probably lean toward keeping things PG-13. or if, and I run it through basically through a filter. Is it okay for my son to see, or somebody else's child to see on the site?
Sure.
Because I want a situation where a young person is on the site and their parent comes behind them, which we always do, and see what they're looking at, and it's something inappropriate, and they kind of like, okay, don't ever go there again, So we want to keep everything PG-13, and so there have been a few exceptions to that, but as far as like the writing, but I think I've been kind of let that slide because it's kind of literary and not so much it's okay. This picture has this woman laid out naked in this particular position. I can't have that kind of stuff on there and then also if a lot of people access the site through their job, and I don't want the site to get blocked from their job because somebody decided to put a nude picture, an inappropriate nude picture up. So if you're over at Dell sneaking on your computer while you're at work, I don't want somebody to have everybody that works at Dell banned from the site,
And there's, not trying to drag up any of the gory details or anything, but there have been, incidents, where people have firmly disagreed with your, with your plan, and could you talk more about that? And not, like I said, you don't have to name any names or anything like that, but it was significant enough to make a few people take sides. And
well, I think I know what you're talking about, and one thing that I am steadfast about the site is that I want everyone to feel comfortable on the site. I don't like arguing and confusion on the site. Now, if someone's having a conversation and it gets a little heated in the conversation, but for a straight up argument to continue on the site or someone trolling other members, I just won't tolerate it, because the site, as I've stated in other places, is that I want the site to always be a sanctuary for consumers, also a sanctuary for people that want to create, and someone creating arguments constantly is an interruption for that. And, that this site is just not a place for them. They can set it elsewhere.
I got to say 3 cheers. 3 cheers for that.
Exactly. I was just going to say on the follow-up. I commend that, because on a couple other sites that I deal with, either professionally or just as as a just a basic contributor, the ones that I've stuck with, also have that policy, and it's really nice. I mean, of course, as you said, there are always going to be heated discussions. There are always going to be strong opinions one way or the other. But the fact that you make such an effort to make sure that that when when the noise reaches a certain crescendo, you as the orchestrator, shut it down, appropriately. And I appreciate that being around, because, like you said, last thing we need around here is the constant bickering, things like that, which is really counterproductive anyway. And
and if it digresses to name calling and things of that nature, has to go, because simply we have too much work to do as far as creating than to be wasting time arguing. We have comics to make, we have books to write, animations to create. You can't do that if you're sitting in here wasting time arguing and creating a negative environment.
I'd like to say to the point is that I've had difference of opinions about things that I was able to, articulate and express my opinion without it being overwhelming or turning into something ugly. And when it's just my opinion, it's just my point of view. And so it's been a beautiful thing to be able to have someone who is cordial, diplomatic, and just consciously gracious to be able to allow other people to express their point, even when there's, it's an opposing opinion or bias or what have you, that you can literally you're free to express yourself. So it works in two ways. It's a double benefit to that, being able to still express yourself, still disagree, but do it in a mannerable, with candor. So I appreciate that. I've been kicked off of sites by people, moderators that were really tyrannical. So you have to be recommended. But I want to get to a point that is to another question about the quad, the Earth Quadrant, and your film, your animated film, and the Indiegogo thing. What is the budget that you are looking for that you would? I'm very business-minded. When I do art, I eat and sleep off of it. So, I think in terms of money, dollars, and cents. I love people that talk numbers. So, what are the numbers that if you go to Indiegogo, if it's not to NDA right now, what do you project the kind of money that you would need to produce it?
I'm looking based off of past experience because I've did video work on some other side projects for other people that have made it to Blockbuster and Amazon and Netflix, things of that nature. And I know how much what the budget they were working with consisted of, plus doing the research on it for a couple of years. I'm looking at the very, 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 very bottom, 6,000, and I'm in 6,000 or more. But I really want to shoot for 10, so that
more.
There can be much more. But this, like I said, I'm very frugal in every purchase that I make. So, and I'm realistic about the fundraising, because it's a lot harder than people think it is to raise funds for these projects. So that's why I have a range between 6 and 10. Could pull it off with 6, but I'd much rather have 10 so that there'll be a little more money in there for long term. And so everything that we're pulling together for this film will be utilized to create more films in the future. It's not like, we're just going to put all our eggs in one basket and then, okay, that's it and that's over. No, it's setting up a system such that we can continue to put out more and more and better films, but we need that much to get us rolling.
Well, one thing sorry, good. What was that? What were you going to say?
Like when I first spoke to you about it, I'm not in favor of it, like, because I'm pretty much very independent about how I build my business. I do my business a certain way, but since then, which I think is very ironic, that I've contributed to several campaigns since then. So, I'll be contributing to the campaign, even if you wind up paying me.
That's fantastic! Wow.
Well, one thing I've found every time I've had to budget a project, it always pays to overshoot. How much you think you're going to have to raise, than undershoot. Because I've been fortunate. I've always overshot, mainly because I had prior experience working with a large production house, and that's what they always did. They always overshot. And if we, and usually what our task was to just, even though we, overshot what the estimate for the budget was, we always had like a hard line about where, how much we were actually going to try to spend, so that, we were always looking at that line, even though there might have been a cushion. And, of course, now I didn't find out until after I became a producer with that outfit that the number that they told us was the hard line was always way down from the hard line that they had, and then and even farther down from the cushion line. So we would kill ourselves to stay on budget, and on time. And so, when it was, we almost, I can't remember, only maybe a couple of times we went over budget, but even then, actually we didn't, because, they had us choked off as far as the cushion line. So we would always be sweating. Oh man, we had to call in this extra thing. We had to get this extra piece of gear. What are we gonna do? And then, of course, now we'd call in from wherever we were, and and our producers were like, oh well, you shouldn't be this, that, and the other. You can't come up with something else, and knowing the whole time, oh, they're good to go, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't let us know until it was all over. And of course, like I said, once I started producing for them, and I found out how that was, I was like, oh, you bastards, because we would be sweating a load, you'd really be sweating because, you're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars on these projects and stuff, and of course you come up with all these crazy ways to to get around that, and get it done. But then, but by the time I started doing my stuff for my own company, I already had that mindset in down pat. But then, of course, now unfortunately I've never had that kind of pad like they ever did, but the thing is, I had that mindset, so I always made sure that even if I had budgeted out a project for $10,000 something like that, then okay, then I knew I was going to need probably about 17, just because stupid stuff happens, and it does, it just does, and that's another thing even. For no matter what you're doing, whether it's particularly in filmmaking and video making, but if it comes down to animation or comics, there's always that one extra thing that comes up that you're going to just need some extra money, and so when it comes down to budget, I always say overestimate than underestimate, because another place where we always get zapped is when it comes down to the marketing part, because almost nobody ever really seriously thinks about marketing, and we've talked about on the show before about swag and things like that, and just basic merchandising, that as much fun as it is to sell all that stuff at cons and festivals and stuff like that, that crap costs money.
Oh yeah.
It costs money.
Oh, yeah.
It costs money to get that stuff made. It is not cheap. You might be able to find deals here and there, but and another thing too, the biggest dread you have, even with with your swag, is the last thing you want is a bunch of merchandise sitting around like that
you can't move.
No, yeah, please, and I'll be the first to admit that when I look over in the corner of my shop, I can see a couple of pile of boxes of stuff that back in the day when I was getting started with this, I made those same mistakes. I think just about everybody makes, but now I haven't made them since then. But still, though, it just be that way. But on the other hand,
that's some great advice. It really is. And fortunately, for me, over the past few years, 5 to be exact, in addition to working in technology, I've been part of a marketing team. So I've seen and participated in creating marketing plans and marketing schedules and things of that nature. So that's been, and I think that's one of the greatest things about creating right now and doing your own thing. Half of it is the creation of what you're making, and then the other half is making people aware that it's out there, and that's where that marketing component comes in. So you're absolutely correct. You could have the best short film or animation or toy, but it's not going to do you much good if no one knows about it.
Exactly, and that's another thing too. I was doing a talk a while back about, for young filmmakers, and And I was bringing up this very point, about, because, young filmmakers, all they're about is making the flick, which is cool, but the thing is, it's like, okay, so now what? You've got your film done, you gonna put it on your shelf and go on about your business, or you want people to actually see it, And, because everybody thinks, and I hate to say it, I'll be the first one to admit that, I was one of those people for a minute, that once you make your movie, then, all of a sudden, you're going to put in these festivals and everybody's going to love it and, you're going to get rich and all this other crap, and which often, which I won't say never happens because, there have been people who caught lightning in a jar, not once, but, more than once. But more often than not, you make your film, you're going to be so really enthused about it, you might have, and that's another thing too. People don't even do basic screenings, of their films or their animations, or even their finished comics. They don't do just basic, not so much focus groups, but just kind of people who are generally interested in that particular genre, in that particular style, or in that particular medium you're working in, and just to have them, and I don't mean just your friends, just get some people together and just show them the flick, or show them the work and see what they have to say about it, because that's all part of marketing, because if you got a small group of people and and they take a look at it and they're God forbid they're doing that nose wrinkle, you're like, oh, crap, but in itself that's good. Everybody wants, positive feedback, but again, negative feedback in many respects is just as good as positive feedback because, if it's negative, then obviously something's wrong. Somewhere in your grand vision, you've not so much made a mistake, but you've either picked the wrong audience or you didn't, there was something you didn't do, because audience is one, as we all know, having been in audiences, and will be in audiences, there's stuff you like and stuff you don't like. There's there are things you go to the movie theater and you're like, man, I want my money back, or God, I'll push it away. I would rather have somebody say that than just say,
Gentlemen, in the big picture of business, though, when you talk about trying to create something, trying to create a product to sell, first of all, a lot of people don't do their due diligence. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, so you're going to make a movie. Oh, you're going to write a book. Oh, so you're going to create a comic book. Who's your audience?
Right,
okay.
Right.
Is your audience big enough to justify you putting in the effort? And then, do you have enough financial resources to do the part, the nuts and bolts of the creativity? And 90% of all black businesses fail because they're undercapitalized. All right. So everybody who says I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do a comic, I'm going to do a film, of all of the black artists who do those sorts of things, they're undercapitalized. And when you're undercapitalized, then of course you fail at the marketing, which is the most important part. Because if you don't have an audience who's going to pay money to see your movie, to buy your book, to buy your comic, then as a business enterprise, what you've done is you've failed. And I think that one of the best things that we can do is to mentor people, especially at this site, in doing their due diligence, crossing their T's and dotting their I's so that they don't fail at the onset. And that's a tough road to hoe. That's some tough mentoring, and sometimes it requires some tough love. And as you guys have seen, there are some conversations that go on that site about just those kinds of ideas when you're trying to help somebody not make a mistake that you've made, or to explain something that is a fundamental and not a matter of opinion. So all of those things are very important in creating art, in creating product, and trying to sell something. And Jarvis, I think what you go ahead.
I was just going to say, and you bring in that point, you bring up a very valid and very important obstacle to anybody that's trying to create is, when somebody And I guarantee everybody that tries to mentor you, is not always going to be on point. They'll bring up points that may be valid, and and in other respect, you got to remember that everything is subjective. However, there's still the technical aspects. There's still the the artistic aspects that are not subjective. I mean, there's just some things you have to do in order to make I hate to call it this, but make product.
Well,
product,
business fundamentals. Yeah, but you're right. Business fundamentals are not a matter of opinion. Okay, and you have people who go, hey, I don't want to have to worry about that. I'm just keeping it real, and what I've got is going to be so fantastic that I don't have to worry about the fundamentals. I don't have to worry about all that yang because what I've got is so fantastic. It's going to overcome the deficiencies of a bad business plan. And how often does that happen?
And that's the point that I was making. The number one obstacle any of us that are doing this stuff have to get over is ourselves. I mean, because I've been very fortunate. I've had some really good some pros out there who are way out there in the business doing their thing and have looked at my stuff and have have pointed me in the right direction over the years and not only give me the hands up like I made the field goal, but they've also given me the that look like, what the hell is this, and told me, but didn't just give me the look. They told me why I was getting the look, and on top of that, how I could improve it, or just say, hey, this is not working for you. Your strengths lie in this other area. You move toward this. I mean, and they're just people that just do not want to hear that. And I mean, let's face it. I'll be the first to admit that, it feels like you're sitting there, and old Simon Legree is working that back on you when you hear that stuff. Because I mean, it's hard. I mean, your little ego is like, because like you were saying, you're enjoying the wonder of you, and then all of a sudden here somebody comes and pops your little balloon, and while you're going down, and they're telling you, well, you need to fix this, you need to fix that. This is this, and but you're sitting there crying, but it was perfect. No, it wasn't. But the thing is,
I've been fortunate to have met people like yourself and William and Alonzo that know far more about certain things that I do, and I make sure to listen to that advice and that point of view because it's beneficial. On this project, the story was originally, the Earth Squadron story was originally written about, it's about 12 years ago. The initial, scribbling, because I was actually just working at, I was in training at, it was called, it's T-Mobile now. They used to be called something else. They used to be called voice streaming. We were in a training session, and I was kind of bored. So these ideas just came to mind, so I wrote them down. But I pulled them together for the first anthology in a short story form. So I picked it back up, and around that same time, that's when the concept for the film came up. So I've been doing research for a solid 4 years on this and incorporating what I felt were the best elements from other people that have done what I'm attempting to do. And then, like I said, taking, like you were saying, Wolfgang, to listen to people that have more experience than I do to incorporate that into the grand scheme of things so that this will be a success.
Just a last point I'll make on this. And that's the thing, too, when, like I'm saying, not everybody is going to have, all criticism is not going to be 100% on point. I mean, but there will be valid points that, are in there, and it's going to fall to, to we, the artists, whether you have experience or you're just getting into this, is to be able to take that information and and just apply it, in the best way, you feel necessary. There's just going to be times, where, somebody's going to see you and they're going to call it out and they're going to be right. But, all the other times, they're going to be, people who are just hating. But the thing is, even haters have their value. I mean, seriously, even haters have their value. I mean, and this is the last example I used. When I was in the combat camera unit, every Friday, crews would come back in with their gear, with their footage, and they would call it out over the intercom, Lion's Den, and it's like everybody would drop whatever they were doing, and we'd head to the company theater, and we don't, everybody, the whole outfit would be there. We're talking, like 50, 60 people packed in this theater, and we're looking at dailies, and once, every time that, somebody's dailies would, be done, that we'd have, an open discussion, about what was on, and I'm telling you, it was like being tossed to the lions. There would be, you would literally get ripped apart in those critiques. But the cool thing about it was, as harsh as it was, you learned right off the bat what not to do. If you made mistakes, with your shooting or your editing or your sound, with the motion graphics that you had put in there, please, they would tear you apart, if you made mistakes. But the thing was, it was good, but it was good, it was good criticism. It was painful, but it was good. And then there was this one producer there, and she was a hater, straight up hater. But the thing that really made it bad was she knew what the hell she was talking about, which, like I said, was really annoying, which was really aggravating. But she was a straight hater. So, when she would start ripping into you, you had to, you had to take her, had to take her seriously. But the cool thing was, when you would bring your footage in and she didn't say anything, you knew you did well. You knew you did really well. You shut her up. You hit the home run. So that was my gauge. Because she was, unless she was dying, she would always be there, dying or on a job that was far away. She would go out her way to be there for Lions Day.
That's
so every day. So I noticed as time started going on, she started saying less and less. And I swear, the last time she was there, she actually, saw some of my work. She actually said something positive. I almost had a heart attack. But
you're doing good, huh?
Exactly. So so in that respect, you have, you take your criticism, because the one thing about it, your audience is going to be 10 times worse than your peers. They're either going to love your stuff or they're absolutely going to despise it, or God forbid you get the, like I said, you get the that's if people hate it or people love it. One thing about it, when people hate your work, they'll buy it later, like when it's in the $5 bin. They'll still buy it. I'm serious. But hey, it's in the $5 bin. But if you ever been to Walmart or one of those other stores like that, where they have the big barrel of old DVDs, in the $5 bin, people, you see they look like cows, in the trough, digging around to see, to get the good bits and stuff. So there's still always a way, a chance that you can still keep selling your work. But the thing is, if you get if you get the they're not going to buy it. They're just going to look at that and go, I know this. This ain't nothing, and they're not going to buy it. And not even when it's in the $5 bin. Because there are films like that there are films like that, and I probably could sit here and name them for a half hour. The ones that I see them, I go, no, and then not because I hated them, because it just wasn't happening, or
All right, guys, you've been listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Society radio show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. And our special guest tonight has been the originator of BlackScienceFiction.com, Jarvis Sheffield. You can see him online. He's our always present administrator, hanging out, doing things, throwing a turn of phrase there, censoring somebody here to people's chagrin. but always maintaining a very supportive, a very inclusive, and a very effective site for the dissemination of all things Black science fiction, all genres possible. Tonight's show has been brought to you by the best of what we have to offer, and that's the good people who populate the site. And Jarvis, I want to thank you for being tonight's guest. I know this is not what you always do, but it was good having you here. And again, all the other participants, thank you very much for bringing what you bring to the show every week. And for those of you who are listening, please tell your friends about the show. The show starts a little bit after 9 o'clock Eastern Time every Friday evening. And for those who have missed it, or if you think somebody would get some benefit from the shows are posted up as podcasts very, very shortly afterwards. So on behalf of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website and our illustrious guest and leader, Jarvis Sheffield, my name is William Hayashi. I want to thank everybody for coming, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks again. Good night.